Paula Gloria, and this is Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. What I'm showing you right now is a picture of a big leopard who killed a baboon. And the baboon was a mother baboon, and it had a little baby baboon. And this is a young leopard. And the young leopard... Rabbit Hole Central.
Hello, it's just me.
Hey, Harold, are you taking a look at the stream? You can tune it down now.
You've got the leopard going down there, really something else.
Well, what that is it's a young leopard that killed a baboon mother, and what it did was the mother had a little baby, and what this is showing is the young leopard starts to bond with this little baby. It doesn't quite know what to make of it.
Yes, right.
And what you're going to see later on is it's going to actually lie down and sleep with it, because I think what it's showing is that they're both young. I'm not sure how it resolves because it's only one episode, but it was just very sweet. It started out with this young leopard killing the mother,
yeah,
and then discovering that. See, look at it. It has these different natures. You know, there's that nurturing nature coming up. So and what it did was it even let go of the mother carcass to the hyenas. It preferred to spend time with this little baby.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Woody Allen had a line when he in one of his movies where he said, and as the good book says, the lion will lie down with the lamb.
Yeah.
The lamb will get very little sleep. I don't know. I mean, that was an aside kind of.
No,
funny.
I know.
Listen, can you hold 1 second for me?
Of course.
I mean, I would get rid of the noise. Hold on.
Isn't that cute though, with the little baby there? And so I think to be observers of nature is a really good quality. We can learn things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just turned on television. So, how did it go yesterday? Did you get over to the Times and stuff?
I just want to finish up with this, Harold.
Oh yeah, by all means.
Part of the reason I want to look at this was, I don't know, did you see the one of me and Michelle talking about her swimming with the sharks?
Yes, and she saw that look in the shark, and it was a thing at the age of 5. She said,
right, and it
was a major kind of consciousness
right.
shifting event. Yeah, it was good. And you were talking with the fellow with the TV fakery.
Yeah. Isn't that sweet, though, this leopard? I don't know. I just find that so fascinating.
But anyway, if I may, I remember doing a program with Barbara Ehrenreich. Are you familiar with her?
No.
She's very good. She's Nation, and she's very good. She wrote Nickel and Dimed and really many interesting books. But she's a biologist, and she had written a book called Blood Rights, The History of War.
Oh, really?
Why do people go to war? And among other things, we were talking about mankind's early experience, and there was a find, paleontologic find, in Africa, and they were actually contemplating that because the skulls had holes, and they thought that they were experimenting with some sort of, in a primitive way, with relieving pressure on the brain or something like that, and then they finally discovered that those holes were matched exactly the eye teeth of the leopard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that leopards, it's projected in our state, we were probably, in much of our experience as a species, we were actually prey more than we were preying upon others.
Oh, right.
Preyed upon.
Right.
Particularly by the big cats who found our meat a delicacy.
Right. I'm just showing how nice and clean my apartment is.
Yes, very good.
Because what
together.
I'm sort of a freak about sweeping things.
Yeah, I see. You got the floor all waxed
yeah,
and everything.
I like
shiny and good. And
I like to do this.
Sweet springtime. Yeah.
No, I like to do this if not once every day, at least every couple days.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
And when Nico Haupt was
absolutely.
Yeah, so when Nico Haupt was kicked out of Warren Street, I was really jangled and thrown off.
Plight. It's terrible.
Yeah, actually, I was going to show you some of what they do. Do you want to take a look at...
Sure, whatever. I'm getting myself together. I got to do a number of things and everything. And I've written it into my scheduling book, the program for Thursday.
Oh, good. Oh, great. So let me show you this. What Nico Haupt is known for is doing something called a video mashups. Like, see, this is what he sends out in his email. So 407, like that. So you click on there.
Yeah.
And then you go over to his email list, and we all know each other, right?
Yeah.
And then he'll say what's going on. And he has organized so well what is definitely a new art form that has to do with gathering people's different materials. So instead of the artist sort of being selfish about their artwork, they're actually flattered when somebody else mirrors or copies part of them and uses part of theirs into the new creation.
I think that's a great attitude. I mean, because they're always borrowing from one another.
Yeah.
I mean, creative people are. It's all grist for their mill, and that's fine. It should be. And it'd be good to have everything available to everybody to use in any way that they want.
Yeah, and I know you've always been big on that. So now here's something called, Simon Shack is something called September Clues. And this is the big one that talks about the television fakery on September Clues. And then what we did on Saturday, just to show you how fast things happen, he'll talk about the 3 new ones. Oh, this guy was the one that used you and Nico. He's a guy in the Netherlands, heavy plastician, and he did something where he took part of you and Nico talking. So then we go on down for the new ones, and there's somebody called ZZ Underground here, called Plane Hugger Dance. That should be interesting. I mean, oftentimes they use a lot of humor to it. They use different kinds of music. Now here's the PG, Paula Gloria, or else parental guided, exclusive. And that's the Warren Report 12. He had, that was an interesting play on words. He had the official Warren Report, the official Warren 12 report is what was coming out.
Yeah,
and
using
so
that term for it now then, right? Yeah.
So then this is the long version, and then what I do is I take an hour and I chop it up for M&N into 28 minutes. And so, but here, see, here if we click on the long version, we'll go over here, and it takes a minute to load.
I'm glad to see you got your computer working now.
Yeah, I think it just needed a rest. And then if you go down to here, you can, you hit this little thing here, and it shrinks it down so it fits into these little streamliners there.
Oh,
So,
that shrinks it, doesn't it?
yeah,
The
that-
other one makes it full screen, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the quality is a little better this way. So
Yeah,
this,
it's really
so
encouraging
this is,
that they got it up to 1,000 or 1 gigabytes now.
Yeah.
To get to where we could get more pristine.
so this is me streaming on my laptop at ground zero, and then so I'll close that now, and then we go over to the more edited one, which I subtitled that Who Fears Al Qaeda's Love Child, and actually this is kind of funny, but it's actually not so funny. It seems as though there was a young girl that came over to them and brought them a big food donation, and then spent the night with Al, and then left the next day, and they can't find her anymore. So they're actually concerned. So you know.
Yeah.
But
And those are. I got a little confused. Those are the people in the Netherlands you're talking about?
no, she was from New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay.
So I made, until I realized it is kind of serious, I said, you know, who's fearing them that they would do that?
Yeah, that's very disquieting. I keep hearing you saying in reports from that fellow and so forth about they're taking things down, and he said it would really hit him in the gut when they first did it, and that's a real serious thing. I'm really glad you're on that.
Yeah, that's Steve Nichols.
Yeah.
That I had. Oh, hang on just a second. Rabbit Hole Central.
Paula.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I just wanted to say, do you have like input, output levels for?
Oh, it's too loud?
Well, Harold's voice is distorting.
I know. Oh, thanks. Is this
Really.
Hunter?
And it's not that it's the volume's fine, but it's like if you have like an output level, like it's just certain words are like really and you
How
know,
about
that's all I wanted to say.
Can you tell how your words are? Hello?
Here, let me go in the other room so that I can...
Because you seem about equal to me, you and Harold.
Well, I'm kind of trying to be quiet for that purpose.
Oh, I see. Right, right.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
You're distorting a little?
Yeah.
Because I tried to...
down.
Okay, thanks. Maybe I need to get a new telephone. Maybe it's my telephone.
Well, on your video patch bay, is there like whatever the audio that you're running?
I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Let me bring this camera over here. Let's see. Can you see that? No, you can't.
I just see your computer.
Yikes.
Unless I'm seeing the delay.
Oops.
Oh, I muted the volume, man.
I don't think I can get it very...
Well, I was just saying, if you have a
See, can you see that?
Output level, just maybe drop them below like 11 o'clock position.
That's how it looks. See? Now you can see it.
Let me go back to the computer.
I only have this little slider thing.
Oh, I see.
That's how it works. It's sort of a flash thing.
Oh, hit the microphone high def thing. What
This
kind
one.
of options do they give you for that?
Right here. Oh,
No, right above it. Yeah, click.
that's only there. It's
That's the only option.
Yeah, that's the internal one, unless I plug something in. Are you a techie?
Am I a techie? Oh, no. I just, just with the audio.
No, I know. You're not the first person that's mentioned that. But let's try it.
I don't want people to be put off by watching it because of that.
No, I know that. I know. Okay, thanks for calling.
Thank you, Paula.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Harold?
Yeah, I could hear vaguely that about my voice.
Yeah.
It may be not yours. It might be mine. I've just got a wonky phone.
Yeah. Let me see. Can you keep talking and I'll...
Yes, okay, testing. 1, 2, 3. We're at M&N Studio testing for audio levels. Testing. Woof, woof. Arf, arf.
I think that'll be better. Maybe just back off of it a
7
little
years
bit.
ago, our fathers before us brought forth in this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men and women...
Say, while we're at it, Harold, I want to say, I had back surgery. I had 10 vertebrae fused and 2 metal rods put in my back.
Yeah, I heard that.
And
it was when you were a teenager.
yeah, I was 14 years old, and then when I learned transcendental meditation, I had, the 2 metal rods were kind of like in the way when I was relaxing and meditating, and so I went to my orthopedic surgeon and I asked him to take the rods out. And he just couldn't believe that anybody 21 years old could have such a thing change. They said, you can't have that happen, at the tottering old age of 21.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the reason that it's happening is because I'm meditating. And he said, and I think he really meant this, this was the best possible advice he could give, that I should stop meditating if it was really changing my back, because this was like major surgery. It was 5 pints of blood had to be transfused, and it was a 5-hour operation. So I knew, though, the peace of mind that I was gaining was just central to my life. And I knew I couldn't stop meditating. It was out of the question. So at 22, my insurance would run out, and so I said, I really want you to take these rods out. And I always wondered, why did he do it if that wasn't what he wanted to do? And then I thought years later, it's probably because he couldn't write down that his medical prescription for my problem was to stop meditating. So he opted to until 30. I'm not really having much result. Like with yoga, my sense of perception of where my body was when I would do that one where you're lying on your back and you bring your knees up and you roll back and forth, I would roll one way, and then when I was thinking I would be rolled the other way, I was completely 90 degrees opposite. That's how off my body awareness was, and how, I was sort of having to learn more about where my spine was at. So the Alexander technique at 30 years old was just a tremendous experience when this teacher had her hands on me and was helping me to regain a sense of where my body was, for my perception to be in line with the actual reality of where the body was. So now I'm really excited to do a documentary. Hopefully I can get a grant for it, to work with my Alexander teacher to use the body as a metaphor for the body politic for all of society, and that our perception now needs to be clarified in the same way that the media during 9/11 wasn't giving us clear pictures of what was really happening that day. And I'm thinking, Harold, you and I with ACAP can start to be this new education of clarified and more accurate perception. And that if we can do this, I think we can turn around what before was thought to be inevitable realities. So for example, for me right now that I'm in menopause, what I think one of the biggest concerns is dowager's hump, when the spine starts to curve. And this is a dear family friend, and her name is Ellie Christophilus, and she was married to the man who developed the H-bomb, who worked with him at UC Berkeley. And I had known her since a child, and as you watch her get older, you know, she really suffered through her spine kind of collapsing in that way that happens to some older women. And so that's my project right now, and that's my interest, using my own body as a laboratory and then trying to post it on YouTube and start to gather information from other people who may be turned on to different therapies. And I know on my Alexander posting I've got about 13,000 hits, and you know, I've learned some interesting things with Qigong and so on, but I continue to be very impressed with the Alexander work.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's a mind over matter and that kind of thing. I don't mean to pry. I hear it's something called scoliosis.
Yes, scoliosis.
Why, if I may, and I don't want to pry, but at the tender age of 14, why did you have to go to such a invasive and thing? There was something, your spine was out of whack or something?
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you asked that. They call it idiopathic scoliosis.
Yes, idiopathic's a good word.
Yeah, idiopathic means they don't know where it comes from.
That's right.
But
that's being used, incidentally, that's being used in political analogy.
Oh, really?
Sort of, it's like Heisenberg or something. How did something happen that was unexpected?
Right,
It didn't fit into a syndrome that could be identified.
Right.
Idiopathic political activity
Right.
or outcome is something, that term is being used that way.
You know, I'm so glad, Harold, that you brought up that term politically, because in truth, like in the case of scoliosis, just because our Western model, it exceeds what our Western model of science can address, doesn't mean that there's not another body of knowledge that might be more profound that can address it, in which case it's not idiopathic. For example, when I went to India and started studying in the south of India in Chennai with the Mohans, who were part of a great yogic tradition, she told me they virtually do not see scoliosis over in India, or at least 20 years ago. I mean, now things are changing, but if you take Indians out of India and you put them into Western society, either in the United States or in London or in England, they start to exhibit, at the time of puberty, this curvature of the spine.
Isn't that something, huh?
Yeah, so that starts to, to point a finger at the environmental impact of a lifestyle that might be stressed and not have access to knowledge that could unstress it. Like, I'm beginning to realize it's not about avoiding stress, it's about staying in balance when the stress appears. So.
Well, good. So there's all that kind of stuff going. I see you've managed to get some daffodils around you right there in the house. That's a good sign of spring.
Yeah, I got more of those.
Reassuring that no matter all our foibles and our angst and everything, spring comes with great regularity each year, and the seasons change. It's sort of reassuring in a sense.
That's true.
And aren't daffodils lovely, though? I think that's daffodil, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And roses over here. And that's
daffodils and roses.
And that's Al-Qaeda. He's unhappy with the media. That's the New York Times. And we didn't make it yesterday, but they're going to make it today. And hopefully have some nice roll-in material. And I'll come and support you in the control room on Thursday.
You're going to be on camera. I've got you down there.
Oh, well, if you want me on camera, yeah, I'll go on camera.
Well,
yeah, let's hope everybody shows up. Oh, there's the guy. That's the guy they've got.
That people, and then you start extending that out to all the people in the world that are at a material level are so stressed out in a negative way. I think there's good stress, perhaps, I'm not sure, and bad stress.
I think it's how we respond to it, and I think how these artists are responding to the whole Al-Qaeda thing, and sort of poking fun and making parody. I think it will give us a way to balance until we can find strategies that will be more useful. This is his sign, and I tell you, Harold, it's really a lot of fun to go down there and to mingle with the tourists, people from all over the world, and to sort of share strategies. New York is an amazing place.
It really is. I really like New York, that's for sure. And all kinds of busy. Well, that's good. Putting a lot of things a whole lot of things going on at this end.
Okay, great.
And there's Al. Yeah.
I didn't spell it right. He spells it Al Kyeda, so I misspelled it. But
he had some new guy named Yahya Alibod.
Yes.
That was funny. And I remember doing a thing with Miss Califf, the one who wrote that book about the Chelsea Hotel.
Oh, yes, yes.
Often artists are in angst, or there's great angst, and then there comes a creative breakthrough. And I said at one point to talk with her, because she's in touch with artists and so forth, and she said, yeah, or even in the midst of the angst is a source of creative outbursts or things that happen even when you're imbued with or you're involved in an angst-ridden situation.
No, that's true.
But anyway, that's that. So all kinds of things going on. I sent that thing out to people about the ACAP. I worked on that hard, kind of hard. I think it's probably pretty good. And getting ready, we're going to have that meeting of the committee on the 16th. That's good. And Monster program went out today. I like with this fellow Hirsch. He was really good. And then our friend, I got to call him before I leave. I got to go out and do a number of errands and things today. But that Sangeeta, he was great after that program. He's going to air on Thursday. Had trouble with the DVD. I think one of the machines that make DVDs up at MNN have a problem. I'm not sure, but we lost audio, which was not lost, fortunately, to the backup VHS copy we were making, but it was lost on the DVD. So we couldn't put it up on YouTube from the DVD. But anyway, that's all just text stuff and everything. But anyway, all kinds of good things going on, and so I'm just here talking to you, looking forward to seeing you on Thursday, and I got to go out and do a bunch of things today, everyday kind of things that I got to do, try to run down those cameras downtown and other things like that.
Oh.
And what are you up to? You're going to be the streaming's working now. That's good. And I've got the stuff Joe shot up on the YouTube from that general meeting. And I'm sort of trying to focus on the ACAP and the public access. Trying to find something unique about public access. And I
think we're doing it right now.
Well, yeah, but I think of it systems, and that there's something unique about the fact they finally got a system where most all communications technology, or all technology for that matter, has been sort of done within a way where we have a dialectic between the private sector, industry representatives, and the governmental agencies that can do what they call regulation or policy that sort of thing has been there. But there was a new thing that was emerging called civil society. That would be entities that are, a lot of your NGOs and so forth, are more and more relevant than they have been historically. And one of those was this idea of cable coming with an abundant capability around the year 1970. And instead of it just being all worked out between governmental regulators, even in the mayor's office locally or even at a larger level with policy statements, you know, like Communications Act of 96 and that sort of thing. But the civil society representatives were there, and that's Sidney Dean. Of that. And so they intervened in the process, and they set aside these PEG channels. Have you heard that term?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, PEG stands for Public, Educational, and Governmental. And instead of the cable company, which were establishing these franchises with the laying out of their cable, which gave them the ability to provide really important services to the market, they were also able to monitor who's where and everything, like a telephone company could, and then turn off that service if the people did not pay the bill that they had contracted to pay to have that service. And that's like a gold mine that's a gold mine. And they knew that was a gold mine, that they were going to realize great profit from that. And it was coming with an abundant capacity, so it was a new kind of condition. And Lord Beaverbrook in England, who is a great media mogul, said of the media that a media presence, newspaper or something else, is a license to print money. So that you're going to have a very profitable thing. And instead of them retaining all those earnings, let's say the cable companies that were let a franchise by the local authorities, they were not going to be able to retain all of the profit that was going to be realized, but they had to set something aside for the community or for the citizens. And and in the franchising, the cable company had to take some of their gross revenue and have it go back to PEG educational. There's something had to go back, communication services for educational or for governmental, city council and that sort of thing. And then the one that really was sort of unique was public. And that's where we are, because they were able then to set up a stream of income from the franchising, from their gross revenue, to make possible something like MNN, both the capital costs and the operating costs. And we're refranchising. We're having a new negotiating phase now through the Office of Communication, the mayor's office, with the cable companies. And that's unique because it was for the people. And we, in a very real sense, particularly as producers, are closest to the people as a interested party, as it were. And that hadn't been characteristic of any of our communications or even any of our industrial or development, that the company had to pay any attention to something as vague as the people in a payback way from their earnings, which they might have liked to have retained in order to build their business and so forth. So that's very unique. So you're able to set up a system at MNN where you can produce programming, and the costs involved are all met by the payback from the cable company, and the citizen can produce programming without being having it be where they have to pay money to do so. And that's unique in terms of the history of communication.
Do you think, Harold, that there could be some way that the producers could actually address paying their rent while they take the time to produce these shows? Because the mainstream does it, and that's a big handicap. And do you think something could be done, like on YouTube, where people keep track of the hits and so on, where you could find out what people want to watch, not necessarily what they want to spend their money on? You know, like I know Sidney Dean was saying that they fought tooth and nail against public access because the advertisers wanted to have the space, and we grew so abhorring consumerism and advertising, which I don't necessarily think is wrong, because I was at St. Mark's and they have this guy who has the Church of No Shopping. I think that's taking it to the other extreme.
Rev Billy.
But yeah, but can there be some way where, since you're working with the policy right now, so that you don't have at public access either the most angry and upset, and they have no other channel except, or no other way to vent their concerns because the corruption in the court system or mistreatment by the police or whatever is happening, so that you get those spewers out, or people who, you know, are so wealthy that they don't have to worry, and you're only getting the message of people who can afford to be unemployed.
Well,
is there something?
Yeah, all of that. I don't know. I did a program with Steve Hirsch, who was a monster guy, really good. We did just aired today and everything. Is that or Bob, you know, Ashford and that you look at the question of the income distribution to the general society is, in a certain sense, to my way of thinking, a different kind of question. And how are you going to distribute income? And I think it's hard to get your mind around and everything because everything's so focused on that. But that would be at a political or at a policy level that would go toward something like, or something along the lines of what do you call it? The things they bring up in the binary, that you have a system where people are getting income by something other than their input to production. So that
yes, that's what Robert Ashford was saying.
That it would give way for recognizing that there is value in a leisured status on the part of citizens, but you would want to have it done within a way where they're leisured, but they're not deprived.
Right.
You could do that in various ways because that's the mechanism that controls the society. You've got a very small group owning all the assets that create the wealth, increasingly in a ratio with the labor input, and it's all owned by a few who set the template. So I've heard you talk often about people can't publish something that might be controversial because the template has been set in terms of what's real, and so, or they're going to lose their grant-getting capability,
right?
Or they're going to lose their job, or something like that.
Or even like the case of Steve with 41 Music. YouTube has this thing called Partners Program where you can start to get some advertising on YouTube. I bet you anything, once the advertisers would see the kind of numbers that this fantastic editor could do, but the fact that he wanted to embed the 9/11 messages in was so abhorrent that they keep pulling him down. Now, when you're looking for something unique about public access, I think you're meaning through the cable, and the legacy of Stephen or Sidney Dean, can you find something about MNN or, you know, public access that is unique and has been, and the people have been dismally failed by YouTube and by the Internet. The Internet today is a dismal failure because of taking down clearly what people want to know about.
I think that's too broad an indictment, a dismal failure. I don't think it's a dismal failure.
Well, YouTube.
1 second.
YouTube, Harold. Harold? Okay, as soon as Harold gets back, I'm going to also tell him about the pedophilia.
Yeah, hello.
Harold, here's something else on YouTube is about a dismal failure. The people who are concerned about pedophilia are very upset with YouTube because they feel on the other side that there's not enough attention to taking down really bad sites. So it seems like as Steve said, if Victoria's Secret or the National Baseball or Football or whatever, NBA, was telling him copyright infringement, why on the other hand, when you do a search for NBA, you'll see thousands, billions of postings with much longer segments than his? Why have his been taken down? Why do the bad pedophilia sites stay up? you know, and then others in the name of, oh, like Ugly George said, oh my God, you know, women's breasts, how horrible, I'm offended, you know, why does that become the issue? Where?
I don't know. Those are big questions. It's very worrying because from my standpoint, anything should be able to be up to people want, and then you've got people protecting. There's a lot of angst around sex and so forth, and these kind of traditional things that come up, and so that's at a policy level of what they're going to do.
Well,
I was only going back to that thing where you say it's not a dismal. I don't think it's a dismal failure, but that thing that they're taking certain things down. And
well, there's no.
The same thing would apply within, let's say, public access television. As to what they're not going to allow.
The only time
you'd want to be pushing, particularly people who are involved in things that are controversial, would say they're taking it down because my perception is threatening to the order or something like that.
But I've never heard anything except Ugly George being taken down from MNN. I've never heard of anybody taken down from MNN.
Yeah, I haven't either. I think they haven't. There's been some questions about people not being able to come and use the facilities for a period of time.
But that's minor.
And we also, minor. I think it's good for you and I maybe to keep in mind that we're at a facility that on the whole is very, very well put together. I think Manhattan Network's a very good one, a good example. But I think the thing is we're part of a larger organization. We've got 3,000 of those around the country. We're reaching out to them, particularly at the producers level. I'm just addressing the woman. I had a long hour-and-a-half talk with that Sue Ann down in Texas again, and
yeah,
she's very bright and very perceptive.
What did she say about Alex Jones? Because he's active down there.
Yeah, he was part of that. I don't know. He was involved. Now, you know, there's going to be nuance in every one of these things, but you do have a situation down there. But I'm just sending her the DVDs of the meeting that you streamed and also of the little organization. I think that committee is going to be, I think there's a chance that ACAP is going to become one of the most important institutions in the planet. I really do. People think that's not true, but I think the fact that they were the ones who tapped into at the right moment in the zeitgeist.
Well, thanks to Nico Haupt keeping on your case. He's really got you in his sights.
Well, I don't care. That doesn't matter. All kinds of people.
No, I'm saying it's going to make you great, Harold, because I know we're going to work it out. I know we are.
Thinking of systems. I'm just addressing those and touching it with them. And I was happy I was able to get that little thing down with a lot of wordiness and everything. And I've sent it to Sue Ann, I sent it to Anna, and I sent it to a couple other people. I think there are going to be more people interested in ACAP because it's going to become a major institution reaching out at the level of the producers. You've got a lot that's at the level of the organizers of the various entities around the country, MNN and others. But at the level of producers, there's nothing there. And the producers have interests in the name. They're closest to the people.
But what I'm trying to say is if somebody doesn't have the means to be a producer because they're so stressed out worrying about, you know, a policeman chasing them off the sidewalk, you know, that tends to be very weighty. And the person who Robert Ashford was really touched that I had come, I didn't even know he was homeless. He said that he's not represented, that the homeless people have organizations that speak for them, but they don't let the homeless people speak.
Well, that's sort of an analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an analogy, and then you could write that analogy out on a larger template if you start expanding out to the world, which we're going to be doing, and on the scale, even somebody as establishment as Stiglitz will say that the system in place is not serving maybe in anything like an effective or liberating way 60-80% of the population of the world.
Right.
And those systems that are in place, it serves well to 20% of the already capitalized, if that's the right term, for the well-to-do.
Well, what's your idea of the leisured class? What's your idea of getting leisure to more people so that they can do more creative things?
Well, my idea, obviously, would be something, at least one introduction of it would be the notion that you've got to have some, first of all, there is some responsibility to the, and your biological metaphor is really good, although you're going to be cabin reading, like I said, Karl Haushofer, and he was the inspiration behind Hitler. truthfully and so forth, and philosophically. And they were seeing an organic comparison to social organization.
Right, I see.
That can be very dangerous.
I see.
But, it's a growing organism, Lebensraum, all that kind of thing.
Right.
Got people all excited, and then you got all these people who are trying to race through
Lebensraum.
first because they're the chosen people,
yeah.
or chosen nation of the moment, or something, all that kind of thing, like football.
But you use the biological model that every cell matters. That's different than Lebensraum.
That's a biological metaphor for an individual human being. 100 trillion cells. They got ads on television that are starting to say that now.
Right.
Oh. It's encouraging. But there's 100 trillion cells in a human organism, and each cell matters, and each cell is part of a system. You got pancreatic cells, you got skin cells, you got brain cells, you got everything, and it's a system that operates magically or something in a way. And so you could take that metaphor in terms of, let's say, society, and that you've got every person should matter.
Right.
And everyone should have, it's like an orchestra. You don't want only the tubas playing and not the timpani, because the timpani is part of it.
Right.
And so you have a thing where you liberate the whole, or the bodhisattva notion of you don't go racing through that gate first like you're some star or something, which is the inclination of many people who want to do something where they can make some money at what they're doing and become famous and rich, or something along those lines. Motivates a lot of human activity. But a bodhisattva notion is that enlightened one, is samadhi or whatever the Vedic thing is, then does not go through the gate but comes back and helps to assure that everyone goes through the gate in a collectivist way of the system, and then at the very end looking both left and right and up and down and east and west and north and south to make sure everybody's included, then goes through the gate last. And we don't have that kind of consciousness among our so-called leaders. They're mostly out there calling themselves leaders and rushing through the gate first for they and themselves and their group. That's the model that mostly motivates things coming out of an ontology of scarcity. Right. And that's the way it had to have been throughout 200,000 years, but it's changing now.
Right.
With the fact we have lethal species lethal weapons systems now, which is brand new, and we arrived at that around that magic year, around 1970, when Sidney Dean was taking the measure of things and laying a template for something unique.
Oh, I see.
Brand new in terms of the responsibility of our corporate leaders to have, instead of retaining all earnings for themselves and their feasibility studies, how they can build their business and all that sort of thing, that there's a responsibility to the people, the public. And that's coming, civil society was emerging as something important. And that's what makes, in fact, that's what makes public access absolutely unique in the history of communications. Didn't have it with wall paintings, didn't have it with vellum, didn't have it with the telegraph, didn't have it with the telephone, didn't have it with television, either local or national or international. None of those entities were responsible to have a public service payback or a relationship to the people until it came at a certain time when a certain abundance was inherent in the situation with the coaxial cable, that this was written into law. And it's in law that there is this responsibility to have some of those earnings back to make communication possible for the citizen at the citizen individual public level. And it's only cable access that has that. It's very, very unique and precious. And we shouldn't just see, well, maybe if we get to be like the people in the big shots and the stars and so forth, we'll be able to have something that will be able to attract fame and fortune. And we got to guard against that, because that's a strong impetus. To separate yourself from the mass is what a lot of people want to do, because being part of the mass has been such a grinding, awful trial for so many people. They want to separate from the mass and not pay any attention to it, to the collective whole, because it's just a drawback on their ability to become unique in an individual sense, like a star, like a Tiger Woods.
But let people become become unique in terms of their commitment and desire for something better. You know, when I see the struggle of these people down at 12 Warren, they're unique. But how many people would want to try to tread that path? I think
that's always the case with certain. It's at various levels, isn't it? I mean, you've always. Jesus said somewhere, the poor will always be with you. I would like to take exception with Jesus on that. And that it may be we're getting to where we do not have to have.
How interesting.
With us.
Would Robert Ashford call that a red letter word?
Which is that, dear? What red letter word?
He says that unlike his father, who was very academic, he seems to be very, have had a very profound experience with Jesus or Christianity. And he talks about the red letter words from the Bible. And he seems to have great hope that churches and religious people will be concerned about poverty, and he'll get satisfaction. I told him, although I embrace all religions, I don't hold my breath, because you've got a lot of pedophilia going on in religions, in churches.
Yeah, look at the Catholic Church is really.
Yes, and then also.
Along those lines.
Yes, and Ugly George will attest to that. And then there's.
Ugly George's thing is the hypocrisy of society around the issues involving sex.
And then also they've changed the Bible so many times. They've either added verses or they've taken them away. And I think biblical scholars will acknowledge this.
Yeah, Jefferson wrote
I'm surprised
the
Bob
Jefferson
doesn't.
Bible.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
When Rooney actually cut out everything except the words of Jesus, rather than all the people that are interpreting Jesus. And that's a thing that happens. I was just reading last night late as I was going to sleep about Islam. I want to try and understand Islam better. It was a great article in the magazine section, New York Times, by Noah Feldman on Sharia, how it's misunderstood. And the enemy du jour now is, in general terms, Islam. And that seemed to be linked with terrorism in the minds of people. There's great propaganda directed at that.
Well, that's why I'm so excited about Al-Qaeda being on your show.
Yes, Al-Qaeda. I think, see, that's a breakthrough kind of thing that happens from the but that idea of just imagine if and the transcending the scarcity, all those kind of things, I think are part of the pattern. But I've been reaching for something that is, in terms of this ACAP business, are we just sort of ne'er-do-well, trying, failed artists who are trying to be as good as the people in the great networks? And I don't think that's the case. I think public access is the realm, and linkage to the open source camaraderie of people in the cyberspace and so forth, that it's from those quarters of the people where the ideas are going to emerge. And the more you're ensconced within the outdated system, the less you're able to see the alternatives.
Yeah.
And it's from them, and it will be from the poets and and also just McLuhan, who was a great student of media and media effects on consciousness, said there are children walking in the streets who could solve our top problems in physics because they have modes of perception we lost long ago. We're conditioned by the feedback mechanisms of the existence of the various media themselves. So out of that collective whole there will come a wisdom. There are more books coming out that way. And that if we get to a point where, dangerous as it is to think organically, house opera, that's why I'm going back and rereading that. That's got a lot of dangerous notions. And then they would come and say, okay, just take the analogy. You got a human organism, and the people that make up the pancreas say pancreas is number one. And the people who represent the spleen would say, no, spleen is number one. We're the one that really matters. And all that sort of thing. And so you get that kind of an analogy. It's dangerous. And it also takes flack. Lynn Margulis, who is probably our principal biologist in terms of understanding the evolutionary process, she's the mother of Dorian. I'm not sure if you met Dorian yet. But
there's a lot of the scientists that you follow that don't impress me very much, and I think they sort of Fruit Loop us. you know, to
well,
use.
Perhaps, but
You know,
really
so
good.
I would like you to look at cold fusion, for example, to find out what was going on 25 years ago. Because isn't that your magic time, 25 years ago?
Well, actually, mine, for whatever it's worth, and I think in the fullness of time it will probably be seen as year one. So, about the year 1970.
Well, maybe let's take
That's when we reached the point where the weapons became species lethal, and they certainly are now. Well, then, Ted Turner did that really great interview with Charlie Rose the other day, and he said that is without a doubt lesson number one, that the whole of the human society, if not life, could be wiped out in about a half an hour.
That was in the 72?
That he had just last week, and I thought he was right.
But Harold, don't. I want to stay on this topic of 1972. Maybe Pons and Fleischmann had conceived of it before it actually went to fruition when Stephen Jones sort of jammed them because of the patenting process. So I will keep a mind open to the 1972 date. But how about getting blasting caps up here?
Actually, I have 70.
Or 70.
1970.
That's the part.
In 72, but it is that period, yeah.
Well, maybe we can get blasting caps up here because he and you seem to really click on that scarcity being transcended, and that's.
He was coming at it from an anarcho side. You know, Murray Bookchin.
Yeah.
Murray Bookchin wrote well on it, and then there was, of course, my man Fuller, who did it probably better than anybody else. But there's quite a literature in what is called post-scarcity economics.
But Robert Ashford doesn't.
All of the limits, you can see the whole effect of when we can put up now, I'm sorry they're taking things down, the YouTube, but what an amazing capability, and they've now made it so that you can have a file that is 1 gigabyte.
Yeah, they're taking.
You're getting close to where you will have, and the whole trend of the cyber is to make everything available to everyone for free.
But see, I'd rather have 100 megabytes and have the sites that I want to see than 1,000 megabytes of all the glitzy ones that they want me to see.
That's another metaphor.
Yeah.
Another metaphor. But it's happening to where they'll be able to have that available to citizens at zero cost. And so I think it's a stretch to say that it's a total failure to use the term about the cyber developments. It's not. You wouldn't be doing 90% of what you're doing down there if it hadn't been for Norbert Wiener and the people who build all these technologies that are developing. And they're coming, but it is introducing a new context that is very hard for our political system and our traditional institutions. Just been watching that great series on Home Box Office about John Adams and the birth of this nation, and it's really interesting to get into what a break that was from the feudal order that had gone before. They were making a huge break and a transformation, but they've established institutions that are now outdated and that was the result more of the steam engine than John Locke or the philosophers of the time. It was the Industrial Revolution coming and so forth. And now we're coming to another iteration of that. And it's we do not yet have a system for operating what Bucky calls Spaceship Earth that takes into account the whole and brings people into a new way, and that is disruptive of the implications of all of our institutions that were formulated of what they call the modern world, probably from the United States of America in 1776, and those now, and the old order from pre-Roman for 1,000 years had been called an ancient regime of dynastic states by which people got a sense of identity, and it was outdated by the zeitgeist, or what was evolving. The system we put in place 235 years ago is outdated in its basic premises. Thank you very much. Oh, wonderful. Okay, Maggie just brought some donuts. That's really good.
What
so
about...
We're just getting to that kind of a point, and we need that, and it's the technology, and it's got a liberating potential. So
let me say what I mean about a total failure, okay? I mean that if you're worshiping bandwidth only and you don't have policies that are strong enough to address the ownership of what you're worshiping, if you're saying that it's the technology and the scarcity's been transcended, that it's dependent only on technology, I think it is also a factor how you use that technology, and if it's in the hands of a more diverse group, you are going to be more likely, you'll more likely flourish and succeed and survive.
I would
That's what I mean.
venture to say, and I don't know, Google's a great big company, and they're really important, and they're growing. And Barbara, did you get the thing Barbara sent? Barbara Rosenfeld, about what's coming?
No, but Harold, don't veer away from what I...
Another layer, they're going to be...
But Harold, don't veer away from what I'm saying.
I don't think I am.
See, Barbara's talking about a new internet. How do I know that that internet isn't already locked down with a lot of ways to tag on and find out everything that I'm looking at and so on?
Yeah,
you know,
well,
I don't know that.
I would venture to say, I don't know, okay? That's why I always say if you're...
But I think it's a very important thing to ask. Before you're seduced...
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, before you're seduced
I'm trying
away...
to make a point. And the point is that I would doubt that there's anything that has been taken down because you're suggesting that there may be for instance, a far more radical idea than boobs or something, is that we've transcended scarcity. Now, they would have not taken anyone down who talks along those lines, I would venture. It isn't that. It's that there's something that is the things you really worry about are the things that are being, and I don't think there would be censoring that. They've just got this hang-up on sex, and that comes out of the human condition that everybody lives and all the power of that and everything. But they don't have anything at the level of ideas. They would just ignore it.
No, here's what they have.
It's absurd.
No,
that's all right. But they would let it go. They wouldn't want to censor that. And what are the policy assumptions?
Can I answer that? Because I'm closer to it than you are.
Yeah, okay.
Here's what my feeling is. I think they're taking down hubs of authority, and these hubs of authority would naturally grow to be the internet or the universities of the airwaves. It's not just access to a whole barrage of information, but it's access to certain authorities who you trust. You know, they've demonstrated that they merit your trust, that because you can't spend 1,000 hours looking at all the videos, you go right to this website that's already done the thousands of hours of worth of research, and they've pulled up some to the top. Those are the ones that are being taken down. It's not just television fakery.
Are the ones that are taken down?
No, let me finish. It's not just television fakery per se. It's the certain sites that have sort of amalgamated expertise and merited the authority that they have. Those are the ones that are taken down, and those are the ones that could become universities of the airwaves, where a person who says, you know, I really want to get an education, but I don't want to go to Iraq to get it, and I really want to know what's going on. I have made a commitment to truth in my life, and I want to be the smartest possible person I can be in the quickest amount of time. He may well discover that he would be better served to go to one of these universities of the airwaves than to go to an institution that has demonstrated, according to his research, that they are not beholden to his interest for truth, but to institutions who want to manipulate his attention in a certain way. That's why they're so threatening.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's why it's, and I couldn't agree with you more, that the internet is like a gigantic autodidactic university. I don't know why anybody would go to a university except that they're going to get credentialed and make the social contacts that are going to make them able to function within the old paradigm.
It's the social contacts.
That kind of thing. But I don't think they're going to take down something intellectually like that.
But they
I don't think. I mean, they'll just ignore it. That's what they do.
If I'm able to find somebody who will help me with the lawsuit against YouTube, so I can find out who to serve the papers to, and you start to build up a case and people start to trust me, then I'm not CIA and all of that, because there are a lot of these people who are, you know, gun shy. They feel they're heartbroken. Their discoveries lead them.
I was impressed with that fellow who said when they took his site down, because he's got a perception that's very important to him. He's ready to die for it, it seems. And they just say, well, we're going to take it down.
Yeah.
And that's very disturbing, and I suppose that's some of that, although things go more slowly generally, but that's probably something along the lines of what Mr. Galileo, Copernicus, and Kepler said when they put forth the idea that the Earth is not the center of the universe.
No, I don't think
that was terribly upsetting to
No,
me.
Harold, I don't think he said he would die for it. I think what he said is the first time it was taken down, because he put so much of his heart and his soul into it, he said it was just like being hit in the gut. It was a real shock.
I thought I heard stronger.
No, I think that's what he meant.
And then they're going to come. It seems to me I heard.
I think I think what you thought about die is I said, what if, Steve, you're such a an ace editor. What if somebody offered you a big job editing, and you've got all the beautiful Ford models footage that you could possibly ask for, and they said the only caveat is you have to drop your little YouTube hobby for television fakery during 9/11. What would you do?
Yeah, and that was his central issue, and I think
well, it's not
that's
that
where I thought I heard something very existential on his part.
It's not exactly that it was his central issue, Harold. It's just that 9/11 seems to be such a good focal point for so much else that's amiss. Like he told me some things about recycling. I have always been suspicious of recycling. And I want him to send me some footage on this, that recycling is a massive waste of time, and it's a massive money maker for a lot of people. That the landfills, we've got plenty of land that we could plow over and put garbage into, and that when you recycle things and if you take everything that is recyclable, you only address 1% of the stuff anyway.
Well, those are figures that'd be good to get at. I'm not sure on that front. That's a little different. Have you seen the piece in the paper where people in their desperation now are going into buildings, even occupied buildings, and pulling anything that has and the price, because the market's all gone up with the oil and all that, to where a pound of, say, commodity X, copper or tin or zinc or anything, people are scrounging and going and pulling wires out of the walls in order to gain some dollars that they can get on the market, where the price has gone up to a point where they can get enough to buy Thunderbird wine or whatever they need in order to survive. So they're starting to do that now to the detriment, and then they pull the wires out of walls and then take it down and sell it and recycle it. On the other hand, Fuller brought up at the time of Telstar, when you had a communication satellite, that he had the figure. He said there's more copper than we would ever need. We don't have to mine more copper. And he said it took 175,000 tons of copper cable for the cable that connected North America to Europe, and it is now done by the weight and the resource that went into the communication satellite could deliver that now. And so that copper cable is available for other things. And I'm not so sure we want to throw out the idea of recycling, particularly when we get to good design that can allow us to take care of doing more with less capabilities of the evolving technology.
No, that's different than somebody giving me a ticket because I didn't separate my garbage. That's all I'm saying.
I know. Well, that's a way for some bourgeois people to get some sense of participation.
Yes, right, exactly.
Your aluminum from your this and that, and they go through all this stuff. That's like smoking. If you just get rid of people smoking, everything would be well, and people freak out because they've got that focus.
It's like buying indulgences, right?
Yeah, or anything that they can focus on that gives some sort of an answer to the angst that's so free floating all over the place and everything. They'll focus on that with laser beam attention, and they'll say, if only we do that. We got to guard against that idea of there's any one single thing within this paradigm shift, and it might even go on to, well, I don't know.
I know what you're saying about you don't want to obsess on 9/11. I understand. I want to tell you the end of the a good ending to that story when that neighbor came down and was upset about the smoking.
That's right.
Of my guest.
Yeah.
Well, and he,
they freaked out.
I came back and somebody said, "You have a lawyer?" And I said, I just don't like going that route. So you know what I did? I took over an apple pie the following day to his wife, who was 6 months pregnant, and I said, "I didn't know you were pregnant." And she said, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." And so we solved it with an apple pie.
Oh, that's great. Apple pie is a great piece. You and your apple pies are doing a great deal of good in terms of bridging some of these horrendous gaps that exist in the lack of vision in our institutions.
Right.
But that's all going on and everything. But I do have this feeling stronger and stronger that public access is the real pioneer.
But see, when you're being...
First time that there was a payback.
But Harold, when you're being comprehensive and you're doing policies, scratch your head and write something down that will make it unique to what's happening with YouTube.
I tried to do that. Oh, not YouTube. I kind of put off into a different category, although I don't think Mr. Gates has any claim upon his ability to think about feasibility studies by having a responsibility back to the public. I think they've jumped that in the name of Mr. Schumpeter or something. But public access was the first, where there was that instituted at the level of law. And it's accepted by the general society that there is a responsibility to, rather than have them take all their retained earnings, it wasn't characteristic of the steel industry, it wasn't characteristic of railroads, it wasn't characteristic of any of the oil industries. There's no responsibility there that they have to the public, particularly in the realm of communications, except perhaps, maybe, not sure, could be worth looking at, this thing called public access cable television that came as we were transcending scarcity at an ontologic level, and there was an opening. It was the time of Martin King, it was civil rights, it was a progressive moment, and the entity that was really relevant then, because they were all very anxious to get those franchise abilities to print money, that industry, they were able to be compelled, because those were being let by local authorities and so forth, and representatives of civil society. They had to do something so that it created what we call Manhattan Neighborhood Network. There would be no Manhattan Neighborhood Network at an effective level if there had not been that worked out within the franchising. And it's now accepted. All 50 members of our city council support the idea of public access, and the support for it that has to come out of the otherwise retained earnings by, let's say, the Time Warner Company. Do you see? And that's a payback to the public and the people. So that nests in a way with a notion of binary, because and it could morph over into other aspects of the overall world economy.
I would just like to...
And it's public act. We are the leading edge of things, not the people in the networks.
Yes.
Or even, we have camaraderie with the open source people and that sort of thing. But public, see, I was reaching for something that makes public access unique from the institutional structure of the society. And I think it's there. And I think we ought to celebrate it. And we ought to be proud of that. And we ought to underpin it and get it out. That's all I'm saying.
Let me give you another.
And what you're doing is where the real cutting edge is, more than the boardrooms of the CBS network.
Yes, but I would like to see more of the leisure that certainly exists through the abundance.
Get leisure until people have economic security.
Well, I would like to see
we don't have systems that's going to allow that in an age where the technology is responsible for production.
Yeah, but
like they have a thing. Do you ever read about how hard it is to pick cotton? You go to pick cotton out of the field with the slaves. They had slaves to pick and tend the cotton, and they had to pick it. And they got splinters up under their fingernails and everything picking that cotton. And then they get a cotton picking machine, and the machine picks the cotton. And rather than them having some piece of income coming back from this cotton picking machine, the thing they do in year 2 is set up a Nobel Prize in cotton picking. And that's what they're doing, because they got this labor thing that people are going to get their dignity by either entrepreneurially doing something by which they are going to gain income or recognition. That's recognition. And that's also security. And they're going to gain that by having a labor relationship to the productive process, which is increasingly and destined to be increasingly technological or capital intensive in its content But that's a huge paradigm shift, that if you spread the ownership as a means of distributing income of that cotton-picking machine, then the people could sit in the shade and maybe create something like a good new song. Leisure is not some... In the old days, leisure meant unemployment, poverty, destitution. Now what we have to have is leisure that is at least providing of reasonable material needs through income distribution, and not look at leisure as something that's a horrible something, and then you're free to be able to participate in a thing like you're doing, which is a citizen's participation and being able to have access to as much information as you can and putting it out, and you're also free from the intimidation that everyone has to feel because they're going to have their job taken away or their research grant taken away or the other means by which people get a sense of validity and value in the society, and that's the largest problem confronting us at a policy level. I don't think there's too much benign neglect of a thing. They just think of public access as a bunch of egoistic, anarchistic egos floating around by the masses, and that's been the attitude of plutocratic leadership elements throughout human history. That who cares what the people say? We have these stars over here who've got it all down.
Yeah,
and
but
they are being well rewarded.
Yeah, but people like this.
Here's at Versailles.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I was trying to get at with my friend Michelle about Tahitian royalty and how the kings and the queens would take care of people.
Yeah, that's called patronage. And we have that now, and you have patronage by the plutocrats.
No, but there's no patronage.
People set up the think tanks and set up the university curriculum, and there's patronage.
But you're only looking at the downside. There's an upside where you could have patrons that are actually able to they have more courage than the average person. They would take more risk on a personal level for the sake of the greater good. They could do that. That they would look beyond their own individual self-interest.
The good graces of charity or of patronage.
I understand.
To take care of the masses.
I understand that, but I also say there can be
it should be at a policy level. And that's what's so good about public access, because it is now...
But Harold, how can public access be that good when it costs $100 for a subscriber and the producers get nothing? And they struggle.
No,
and
the only producers don't, you can't say, if I may, okay, that's an interesting question worth addressing. Maybe the costs of I don't know how to deal with that, really, but the costs of the subscription fee, they are eroding, and they will erode under market forces. And when you can put something up, I've been in public access for a long time. In order to do what we routinely do, that's the producer side. If you go there and you have enough income to be able to live, let's say, and so forth, but then you can go to this place called public access, and you can produce a program at zero cost. It would have taken about $500 to make an hour program.
So what?
25 years ago at a studio comparable. And so that rules out everybody, for instance, that's homeless. Now, the part that they're... So then where and how are they going to communicate in a way where you don't have all of these constrictures by institutions that are going to fire them?
Well, let me put it this way, Harold. If you had a son or a daughter who had a public access TV show, yeah, would you feel comfortable and relaxed that they're going to be okay?
No.
Just because they had the public access TV show.
No. It's not. At the personal level, I don't think it is. I don't think that's where it will be coming from a source of income that would make them comfortable.
But if they have to work it out elsewhere, then what I'm saying...
That keeps everybody scrambling. They have to scramble to make money for what they do, and that's the motivating thing for most things people do. I'm not going to do it. And they will say, if people were leisured. But that's not at the level, that's at a different level. That's at an economic policy level.
No, but all I'm pointing out is that public access, in order to be comprehensive, you have to take into account everything. In order to say to the homeless person, for his voice to be heard, you also have to address that he has